Hello everyone, Simon is here with AvaTrade, and I welcome you to our weekly webinar, your weekly trading plan. And for those of you that don't know me, a few words about myself. I've been involved with trading since June of 2000. It's almost 22 years. In the past, I was professionally trading on Wall Street and a few prop firms, and after that I was mentoring and educating. Currently I'm a senior account manager at AvaTrade. Now today's agenda is the same thing we do every week. We'll talk about indices, stocks, commodities, and FX, not necessarily in the same order, but we'll cover all of it. And I like to show this so you have a way of following us up on social media. You have Telegram, you have Twitter, and YouTube is a great source of information that is being updated all the time. And also this webinar is being recorded and posted on YouTube as well. And this is the risk warning. It's important for you to look through it. And as you know, that everything we do is educational here, and you shouldn't take it as an advice for your trades, of course. So let's start with talking about the big picture a little bit. Unfortunately, the war is still there, and we keep on saying it. And I really wish and hope that one Sunday I'll say the war is over, and I'm really hoping it's going to happen soon for everybody's benefit. And we have upcoming week. It's a very serious week. It's a second move of Feds in increasing the interest rate, and the expectation is between 0.5% and 0.75. We're not sure what it is, and we'll go through the economic calendar in a moment and see what else is happening. But as you've been looking at this slide, I'll explain what it is. Actually, it says right there, and it's provided to us by Dow Jones Market Data. It says that the S&P 500 closed on Friday minus 3.63, and it's down since the beginning of the year. The first 4 months of the year, 13.3%, representing the most 4 months period to start calendar year since 1939. It dropped the most since 1939 when the drop was 17.3. So it's the second largest drop in the first 4 months. And again, we can be sounding dramatic here and pessimistic and anything else, but the fact is the fact. What's going to be happening next? Are we going to reach higher numbers to the downside? Are we going to bounce from here? Nobody knows. But as I've been speaking for the past few weeks, it's a tremendous downside pressure on the stocks and the equities. Of course, the indices are reflecting it, and a lot of things. It's geopolitical, of course. The energy prices went up. Inflation is really choking most of the parts of the world, and the central banks are moving towards increasing the interest rate. And U.S. It's the second time of many this year that's happening this week. And the Feds are meeting on the 3rd and the 4th, and we'll take a look over here. I'll start from here. So the meeting starts on the 3rd, and it's a 2-day meeting. And on the 4th, they'll be announcing the interest rate decision. It will be followed by the monetary policy statement and the press conference, which is very important. Okay, so we'll see what happened. Last time when the interest rate was increased. Into the news, the market sold, and then after the news, we had the bounce. So will we see the same thing? We're not here to predict the future, but we'll see what's happening. So let's just go through the calendar. And again, important for all of you, I believe, to really follow the economic calendar. And what I do here, I just bring the one with the high impact, as you can see everything in red. But whatever market you're involved with, whatever instruments you're trading, make sure to prepare yourself for the week. You can mark the calendar, you can put alarms on or anything, depends. And just make sure that you cover things that you trade, that it's relevant for the market that you're trading. So like I said, I take out only the high impact instruments. And let's go. And we have on Monday, manufacturing PMI from the States, retail sales from Germany. We have interest rate decision from Australia on Tuesday, and the statement and the speech. Then we have employment data from New Zealand, and then moving to Wednesday, we have retail sales from Australia, retail sales from European Union, and we have ADP employment change. That's the one before the non-farm payroll, also very important. And of course, we have the Fed, something that I highlighted here. That's the most important announcement, and it will be followed by the press conference that the Feds will be talking about what they are planning on doing with other things to do with monetary policy. So that's on Wednesday. Thursday, we have a bunch of news from UK, and that's also the interest rate, involved numbers, monetary policy, and so on. Very, very important. Of course, the governor is speaking. It's pretty much the same thing we have on Wednesday for the States. We have the same thing on Thursday for the UK. And Friday, in the non-farm payroll, it's one of the most important announcements of the month. It's the first Friday of the month. So we'll be seeing how many jobs were added, what's the unemployment rate, and so on. And it's really a full calendar of events for the week. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a hot week. Get ready. Okay, so that's as far as what's the economic calendar is presenting to us in the upcoming week. And again, the key point is in this case, the Fed's increase in interest rate and the non-farm payroll following 2 days later. Okay, so let's move to the MT4. We'll look through a few instruments. We'll start from the stocks. So as I said last week webinar, we said that the big guys are reporting. We had some mixed reports from the big players, and that's was Facebook, Amazon, Google, and others. So we'll be going through them and see what happens. So just to remind everyone, the week before we had Netflix crashed and it didn't bounce at all. So it's been initially it dropped from 350 to about 250 and then continues, and Friday closed around 190, 189.81. It's the weakness. But this week it just finished. We had the following stocks were reporting, and that's Microsoft actually had a good report. It went up for 2 days, and Friday it went with the market, covered the gap. So Microsoft here, potentially if the market continues lower, can go and retest this 270 level, even though the news were pretty good. But the market sucked it in with all the other stocks. So that's Microsoft. If you take Google gapped on the bad news, tried to rebound the following day. I came right back on Friday with the market selling 22.80. We closed. Facebook had good news, and it gapped up, and it's pretty much holding. Friday didn't break the Thursday's low, so it's a good sign. It's a little bit of a strong sign here. Again, let's see what's next. and let's see what the market is doing next, and let's see how in general market will react to the interest rate decision the upcoming week. Apple actually had good news but bad predictions for the next quarter. They were complaining about the supply shortage, and on Friday the stock sold, pretty much trying to close the gap here. And as you could see, it just closed below 200 moving average. It's a bearish sign over here. So that's an Apple. Amazon, big disappointment. That's the Friday. Thursday news came. The stock traded after markets to the downside, and then Friday it gapped and continued lower. So, and if you take a look at the weekly chart, we closed below 200 moving average on the weekly chart. There is a possibility of continuation to the downside as well. Again, we're not predicting the future here. We'll be seeing what the market is doing, and the stock is weak. It didn't really try to bounce since the gap. Let's see what's next. Intel also similar idea. It gapped and continued lower, and it's actually reached this level of the previous support that was here on February 24th, and the low was 43.55. We closed 43.53, pretty much the same level exactly. So we'll be watching what's happening in the upcoming week. We could actually try to hold this level, and that all depends what the market is doing. And if you take a look at the weekly chart, you know me, I like to talk about the levels. Look how beautiful it is. We bounce here, we bounce here, we bounce here, we bounce, and the same level here again. Not a coincidence. Somehow levels do work. So that's Intel. Now, Boeing also, big sell-off over here. And we are also approaching this level here of possible support from which we bounced. And that was the low of 143.25. So potentially we could go another $5 before we reach that support, or continue or bounce. But as of now, big weakness. No buyers are coming in at all. So Boeing is really selling over here. So that's as far as stocks. And another group that I want to bring up, the banks. The banks are really suffering here. If you take a look at JP Morgan, the stock is selling. We keep on making a lower highs with the lower lows, and it just keeps on repeating itself. You have Goldman Sachs, the champion of the brokers and the bankers. It's on the way down. Now, potentially, it could try to retest the 370 level. Sorry, the 270 level. That's another potential $35 to the downside. We are below the 100 moving average on the weekly chart, and potentially we could slide lower over here. Citigroup is also selling, very heavily selling here. If you take a look at the daily chart, every pullback is being sold again since here. We really was selling strongly here with gaps. We rebounded. We made a lower low, a lower high, and another lower low. So potentially we might continue also similar to Goldman, maybe another $5 down potential. Again, it might happen on, so the banking sector super weak over here. So these are the stocks, and of course the indices are acting in the same way, and we'll take a look at them. We'll start with China. China is actually the past few days being bouncing, as it was showing a lot of weakness due to COVID is the main reason. They had issues there with the lockdown and having a hard time controlling it. So the equity market fell really strongly, and then the past 3 days there was a bounce here. If you take a look at Nikkei, similar idea. It bounced in the past few days, and on Friday it went down in sympathy with the U.S. stocks. Now S&P, and I just want to bring this to your attention here. If you remember, I mentioned these levels over here, then we come possibly and retest them, and we right back at this level. So it's very, very crucial. If you take S&P, as I said, it's the biggest decline in 4 months since 1939. I just quoted it. It's based on Dow Jones data. So we are at this level here, around 4,100. So the low was 4118.5, and we closed at 4136.75. It was a little bit of a bounce here. So it's very, very crucial here. If we start breaking low over here and closing below this 1130 level, we might continue sliding over here. If you take a look at the weekly chart, we made a high here, and this is the all-time high from which we sold, and then we broke the previous support here, and over here we made a lower high, and if we'll close, let's say, the upcoming week below here, that's technically would be a lower low since over here, and that would possibly trigger technical selling or increase the selling for that matter, as we're already selling pretty much since the beginning of the year. So that's S&Ps. If you take Dow Jones, we still didn't reach this level, the previous support, so it's a little bit stronger here. And if you take NASDAQ, and NASDAQ is also at this level over here. It's trading around that level of support that we had here and here. It's actually closed lower. So the NASDAQ is the weakest, and it shows the biggest potential to the downside. And as I mentioned to you maybe a few weeks back, that's what analysts were saying, that if increase in interest rate will be more aggressive than predicted, the tech stocks would be suffering the most, and that's exactly what we see, as NASDAQ is the weakest out of 3 indices. So that's as far as indices. From the US, you see the French index, Friday also sold. FTSE sold on Friday after the previous 2 days of a series bounce. DAX also Friday sell-off, but it's holding up. And I added another index that we kind of neglected. I know some people do trade a Spanish index. It's been pretty strong, stronger than the others. If you take a look at the weekly chart, we're really holding these levels over here, and something to pay attention to. We had the sell-off on the 26th, and then 2 days, and then on Friday, as all the European indices sold out, Spanish index didn't really sell off that heavily. It was a down day, but not that aggressively selling. So it's been holding here. So if all the indices continue lower, this one might catch up to the downside. And if indices turn around, usually the strongest moves the first. So it might be a potential to a nice bounce to the upside. Just an observation for those of you that are watching the Spanish market. Okay, so we're finished with indices, and let's move to commodities, and we'll take a look at oil and natural gas first, of course. And these are the most sensitive in the current situation with the war of Russia and Ukraine. And if you take a look at the daily chart, we had nice bounces. We came again with bounce of $100. Again, as we previously, we were as low as 94, 93, and we spoke about this 94 level being a possible support. And we did hold as a support, and the last attempt to come close to it, it didn't really get, so the bounce was pretty much strong. We went above 100 again on the 26th of April, and we are trying to retest 107 and to break to the upside. We couldn't close above it, so now it's clearly we have a pretty much $7 channel between 100 and 107. So that's an environment that some traders, scalpers, or day traders might take as an advantage by knowing that we are in pretty much tight range over here between 100 and 107. And the people that are trying to get into a longer term position might be looking to buy about 107 and see if it continues to the upside. Shorting at 100, also an idea, but I'm not sure if that's a responsible risk over here, knowing that it's a lot of pressure to the upside, as it's really confusing what's happening with Russia selling their oil. It refused to sell to a few countries, others are still buying it. So it's very unpredictable here. But as of now, we are in the channel between 100 and 107. So, and natural gas. Natural gas, it looks like 7. It's a new support. It's been holding around 7. That's 694, 7 area has been holding. And the recent high was around 8. So let's see what's happening in upcoming weeks or days, the upcoming week I meant to say. And it's been holding here, 7. We broke below it. And then I guess we shook all the stops out, and then we came right back into this area about the 695. We retested again, couldn't break back to the downside and bounced again. So we are trading between 7 and 8. Anything could happen here. It's very important to understand the technicals are technicals, but if you have the major reason for this move is geopolitical fundamental reason, that we could be facing any surprises here. It's important to know and not just rely on the technicals that we can see and possibly calculate or predict. So that's natural gas. You have heating oil. We spoke about it that we couldn't break it to the upside, but it was cooking here and possibly move. And then there was a surprise. We had the down, we had the move to the downside, and we came right back, and we did close about this level. So after this weakness, we are open to the upside again. But again, the summer is coming. We are almost there. And the war is still going on, and the same idea. All the energy commodities are super unpredictable now, with all the trade going on between Russia and Europe, and we don't really know how it's going to play out. So pay attention to that and make sure that you are calculating your risks. Now, Palladium, in the past few days bounced as we were sitting on the 200 moving average here. We tried to sell off here. We bounced right back, closed above. We didn't have a closure for a while below the 200 moving average, and then the buyers came in and moved it nicely to the upside. And now we kind of are facing a resistance of 100 moving average over here. So there is a potential of continuation to the upside, as you know, the palladium is the commodity that Russia is one of the biggest producers of it. And the last group is the metals. We'll start with gold. Gold's been acting up really weird. We had a move higher, and then the next thing you see, we just broke from the previous support around 1917. We actually dived below 1900, and we closed below 1900. So what's next? We are sitting right on the 100 moving average over here. Maybe these tails could be considered as support, as we bounce from here, we bounce here for the high from the previous one. So around 1890 could be considered kind of a support. As we closed below, but the very next day we closed above it. So it looks like around this 1890 could be a support. Plus it really being supported by the 100 moving average over here on gold. So pay attention to this level here. We might bounce, and if we start closing below it, we might go and revisit the previous lows here. We'll see what happens in that direction. Now, copper, I want to bring up the copper as indices, and the equity market was selling, and the Chinese news with COVID were not so great. Copper has been really suffering since these levels over here. We had multiple attempts to break above 477. We kept on bouncing, and then we had a nice move lower. And it could be we're trading below the 200 moving average here, below all the average here. So on the weekly, we just closed the week below the 50. So it could be that at some point copper could find some kind of support, and let's just try to see if this weekly trend line could be something that might stop this move to the downside. There's a possibility. So we'll be watching this trend line. I'm going to leave it here for the weekly chart. And as far as daily chart, I'm just going to try to find it. It's very hard to find the level here. As you can see, a lot of tails. So it's very hard to find the level over here. Maybe we'll try this here around 430, as this was the last level from which we made a high. So it could be the 430, 431. It could be the level. It kind of supports the trend line that we draw on the weekly chart. So let's see if this level would be the one that stops this free fall on copper. Okay, that's it with commodities. I'm not going to go to soft commodities. You can take a look. You know what? Let's take a look really quickly. They're not really doing much. They being ranging here. That's the wheat and the corn. We said that the corn might break through this. It did, but didn't go any higher. It's been holding here. So the soft commodities are kind of waiting for what's next. And let's move now to Forex. And we start with dollar index. And it's amazing that you never know what could happen. And last week I spoke with you, and I said that we could easily, in the upcoming weeks, reach this all-time high, or I don't know if it's all-time high, but yes, pretty much all-time high. It's a triple top. The first level, the first time we were here, it was 2017, then 2020, and then now. So I wouldn't really expect that it would happen in the same week, but it did actually. If you go and revisit what we spoke about last week, we said that we start closing about 100 and then 101, and the space is open. The moment we broke out of these tails here, the space is open for retest 103, and it did happen. Look at this weekly. I think it's probably besides these two moves over here during the pandemic, this is one of the largest ranges, weekly ranges in a while. So we are here. Now what's next? We might be retesting this level, try to break out of it. We might fail and go to correction to the downside. Again, a lot of factors here, a lot of reasons. And I think the first thing we'll know on Wednesday about the interest rate and the monetary policies of the Feds, and that will determine the action of the Fed might be already priced into this, or we might see some surprises from the Feds that might push the dollar even higher, or the opposite, some disappointment and dollar could fall down and retest. And in that case, the 100 would be a very nice level to see for support. So that's a dollar. And if you take a look at all the majors, they're the super heavy sell-off. We are closed at 105.41 on euro dollar. Pound has been selling. Australian dollar has been selling, but we are holding these levels over here on Australian dollar. And as I mentioned, economic calendar brings some figures here. So this level right here on 1.7 is very crucial. We might hold it and bounce. As you could see, we've been in the channel for a while, about 500 pips, 550 pips. And if we start closing lower, we might continue falling to the downside. So Australian dollar is very crucial. We're getting very close to this level over here, 0.6991, so 0.7 technically. New Zealand dollar actually broke to the previous support. We're making a lower low. and don't see any support here. This could be it right here, but I'm not going to speculate on that. We are really selling on New Zealand dollar here. Now yen, we'll finish the Forex world with yen. Yen has been super weak, and after this kind of attempt of getting strong, the yen got weaker again and the dollar moved higher. So it's both. And the last comment of Kuroda, the president of the central bank, I'm not sure if that's the title exactly, but you know what I mean. They said they're not changing any monetary policy. And I think this was the last move higher on that comment. And Friday, it moved a little bit lower. So again, we might continue with the historical highs on the dollar against the yen. So yen is super weak. And as you could see on Friday, we did retest the previous level of the resistance, and it did hold as a support. So few scenarios, we might continue higher. In this case, we would need to break the Thursday's high, and that was a high of 131.24. Or if the yen decides to turn around and get some strength, we would need to see a closing actions below this 129.30 level, and that would bring the yen to the next retest around here and possibly here as well. So it's very crucial over here on yen, what's next. As I said, they didn't change any policy, and previously they were saying that they might intervene to increase the value of yen. For years they were doing the opposite. And as of now, they haven't done anything. They haven't changed anything monetary policy. So the yen continues to be weak, and the dollar is super strong. So you can see this stretch is moving higher, and it's pretty much vertical. So that's as far as the Forex. And let's take a look at Bitcoin really quick at the end. And it looks like it moves with the market to the downside and against the dollar. So again, if the dollar continues its strength, we might go and retest the lows here around 34. As of now, it's been really, as you could see, lower highs and lower lows on Bitcoin. And if the dollar experiences some weakness, and if the market goes back to risk on after this tremendous move down for the first 4 months of the year, we might see the bounce. But again, in this case, we are way below 40, so we need to break about 39 back to the surface and then possibly try to bounce back to the upside. Okay, so let's summarize. Let's summarize what we spoke about today. And it's a risk of the market sold out. We had S&Ps lost in 4 months more than it did since 1939. A lot of pressure to the downside of equities. We have Feds reporting on Wednesday after two-day meeting with interest rate decision and the press conference. We have economic calendar full of announcements and interest rate decisions, and I suggest you look through it again. And the war is still there, unfortunately, and geopoliticals are still pushing for energy commodities to the upside. And of course, the inflation is increasing because of that as well, besides other reasons. So the Feds on Wednesday decision and NFPs on Friday. And let's see, it's very crucial for the market. Will we continue to the downside, or will the market bounce like it did after the last decision? It's very important. I wish everyone a successful week and also enjoy the weekend while it lasts. And stay healthy and happy. All the best. We'll be back next week. Take care.